2026 is shaping up to be a landmark year for Linux enthusiasts and even casual computer users. After decades of Linux being seen as a niche operating system, used primarily by developers, system administrators, and tech hobbyists, 2026 might just be the tipping point where Linux enters mainstream adoption in a way we've never seen before. The question on everyone's mind is, which Linux OS will emerge as the next big thing that makes users finally switch from Windows or Mac OS? And more importantly, why is this year poised to be the one that changes the computing landscape forever? To understand this, we need to take a deep dive into the evolution of Linux, the challenges it has faced, and the innovations that are set to propel it into the limelight in 2026. The Linux ecosystem has always been vast and diverse, with hundreds of distributions tailored to different needs. There are lightweight distros designed to breathe new life into older hardware, security-focused distros that cater to privacy-conscious users, and aesthetically polished versions that aim to rival the user experience of macOS and Windows. Despite this, mainstream adoption has been slow, largely because of familiarity and ecosystem lock-in. Windows and macOS dominate the desktop environment, and most users simply stick with what they know. However, every year, the gap between what Linux can offer and what mainstream users experience has been shrinking, and 2026 is finally when this gap will narrow enough to spark a migration wave. The first reason Linux is set to explode in 2026 is performance and efficiency. Modern Linux distributions have become extremely polished, optimized, and lightweight, allowing them to run seamlessly on hardware that might struggle with Windows or Mac OS, whether it's the ultra-fast file system management, lower overhead on RAM and CPU, or the advanced kernel optimizations. The next generation of Linux is designed for speed. Users who previously felt that Linux was complicated or only suited for servers will find their machines running faster, smoother, and more reliably than ever before. This is especially appealing in a time where devices are becoming more powerful, yet users demand instantaneous performance across applications, from web browsing to high-end content creation. Another huge factor is the user interface and design. For years, Linux was seen as functional but aesthetically lacking. It was considered the realm of terminal commands and configuration files, a playground for coders but not the average user. That perception is rapidly changing. In 2026, several Linux distributions have achieved a level of polish and design sophistication that rivals Mac OS. From sleek, minimalist desktops to immersive dark and light themes that adapt dynamically to usage patterns, Linux now appeals not only to tech enthusiasts but also to designers, creatives, and casual users. The visual and experiential quality of these systems has reached a point where people who have never touched Linux before are considering it purely for the beauty and usability of the interface. The software ecosystem is another area where Linux is closing in dramatically. One of the biggest barriers to switching for many users has been software availability. While Linux has always excelled in open-source alternatives for productivity, multimedia, and development, it lagged in mainstream software offerings, particularly for gaming and creative tools. That's changing in 2026 thanks to innovations like containerized applications, Flatpak, Snap, and AppImage, which allow users to run software without worrying about complex dependencies. Gaming has seen a massive leap as well, with compatibility layers like Proton enabling Windows-based games to run seamlessly on Linux. Major studios and indie developers alike are now releasing native Linux support for their titles, making it feasible for gamers to make the switch without sacrificing their favorite games. The combination of native and compatibility-driven applications finally closes the gap that held casual and professional users back. Another compelling reason for the shift in 2026 is security and privacy. With increasing concerns over data breaches, privacy violations, and intrusive operating system telemetry, Linux offers a breath of fresh air. Most mainstream operating systems collect and share user data to varying degrees, while Linux allows users to maintain control over every aspect of their system. Advanced security features, built-in firewalls, customizable permissions, and robust encryption make Linux not only a safer environment, but also a more empowering one. For businesses, developers, and privacy-conscious individuals, Linux represents an operating system where trust and security are foundational rather than optional. The timing couldn't be better, as 2026 sees global legislation tightening around data privacy and user protection, and Linux aligns perfectly with these emerging standards. hardware compatibility has also made enormous strides. Earlier, one of the biggest frustrations for Linux users was driver issues and hardware support. Printers, graphics cards, and peripheral devices often required manual configuration or simply didn't work. However, in 2026, many Linux distributions now include automated driver management, improved hardware detection, and native support for modern devices. Whether you're on a high-end gaming rig, a powerful workstation, or a sleek ultrabook, Linux can detect and configure your hardware seamlessly. Even laptops that ship with Windows pre-installed are seeing Linux-friendly alternatives, often through partnerships with manufacturers who now recognize the growing demand for Linux-ready machines. This means switching to Linux in 2026 is no longer a headache, it's a smooth, plug-and-play experience that rivals any other operating system. Cloud integration and compatibility with professional workflows is another key reason why Linux adoption is expected to surge. Linux has long been the backbone of servers, cloud computing, and enterprise infrastructure. But desktop Linux often felt disconnected from these systems. That is changing. The next wave of Linux distributions in 2026 comes pre-configured with cloud integration tools, container management interfaces, and development environments that make transitioning between cloud servers and local machines effortless. Professionals who rely on development stacks, DevOps tools, and cloud-native applications can now have a fully integrated environment without needing to dual boot or run virtual machines. This efficiency is a game-changer for developers and businesses alike, making Linux not just a viable option, but often the preferred platform for productivity. Community and support have always been one of Linux's strongest assets. Unlike proprietary systems, Linux has a vast, active, and passionate community that contributes not only code, but also support, tutorials, and resources. In 2026, this community-driven model is more accessible than ever. New users can find step-by-step guides, pre-configured setups, and active forums to help them troubleshoot any issue quickly. The combination of professional-grade distributions backed by companies and the volunteer-driven open-source community ensures that users have both reliability and flexibility. This dual support structure significantly lowers the barrier for new users, making the transition to Linux less intimidating and far more approachable than it has been in the past. The next big Linux OS in 2026 is also leveraging artificial intelligence in ways that no previous generation of operating systems has. Intelligent system optimizations, predictive memory management, AI-assisted setup, and configuration wizards are now part of Linux's toolkit, making it easier for non-technical users to customize, optimize, and maintain their systems. AI-driven software suggestions, automated updates, and adaptive interfaces are turning Linux into a system that learns and evolves with the user, offering both efficiency and personalization without the steep learning curve that previously deterred new users. For many, this is the first Linux experience that feels genuinely modern, intuitive, and intelligent, something that rivals proprietary systems in usability, while maintaining all the benefits of open-source freedom. In addition, licensing and cost are compelling reasons for switching. Unlike Windows and Mac OS, which can be expensive and restrictive, Linux is free and open source. Businesses, students, and creatives can deploy multiple machines without worrying about licensing fees. The financial benefit is especially significant for organizations, scaling operations, or individuals who want professional-grade software without paying for subscriptions. In 2026, this cost advantage is combined with enterprise-ready features, polished design, and hardware compatibility, creating a perfect storm that makes switching to Linux not just a viable option, but a smart one for both individuals and organizations. Perhaps most importantly, there is a cultural and social momentum building around Linux, with an increasing number of influencers, developers, and creators advocating for open-source solutions. Linux is no longer seen as a fringe operating system. Educational institutions are incorporating Linux into curricula. Tech conferences are highlighting Linux-first solutions, and mainstream media is taking note of the innovations coming from this ecosystem. The social proof of Linux as a serious, modern, and capable OS is finally reaching critical mass in 2026, encouraging more users to explore and adopt it. While Windows and Mac OS will continue to exist, and certainly maintain their user bases, the combination of performance, design, software availability, security, hardware support, AI integration, and cost-effectiveness means that a growing number of users will find Linux the more compelling choice in 2026. The next big Linux OS isn't just another distribution, it represents a paradigm shift in how we think about computing. It offers freedom, efficiency, and modernity in a way that proprietary systems struggle to match. Those who switch early will benefit from a smoother, faster, and more secure experience, while others may follow as word of mouth spreads and the ecosystem grows. Ultimately, the question is not whether Linux will become mainstream, but which distribution will become the default choice for 2026, with multiple contenders optimizing for user experience, gaming, productivity, and professional workflows. The race is exciting and dynamic, but one thing is clear: the next wave of Linux distributions is no longer just for enthusiasts or developers, it is ready for everyone. In 2026, the tide is turning. Those who embrace Linux early will experience the cutting edge of performance, usability, and freedom. And for millions of users around the world, this will be the year they finally make the switch, leaving behind the constraints of traditional operating systems and stepping into a new era of computing.